Hey, it's Andrew Huang, and today we're going to be freezing a microphone, thawing that microphone, and then boiling that microphone, because that's my idea of fun. But also it's about gathering interesting sound textures, and I wanted to start by talking about composing music with textures, because there are some really interesting things that you can do with them. So recently I put out a song called You, and it's one of my favorite things that I've released in a long time, and the entire song actually started just from the sound of radio static. I was messing around with the Coma Field Kit, which is this interesting device that lets you kind of interact with all the sounds in the world around you, including the radio, and it lets you control and automate the tuning of the radio. So I was using an LFO to effectively jump back and forth between two different spots on the radio dial. I really like this rhythm and this texture, so I decided to just play along with it and found some chords that I liked. It just adds some character and grit and a bit of dirt to everything. It kind of does what vinyl crackle does a lot of times, you know, just adding a bit of a feeling of wear and tear, nostalgia, some worldly imperfections. I wonder if it's also because it's similar to the sound of falling rain, which I feel like everybody enjoys. Or, you know, it's just like slapping some ASMR on top of your track. Another fun use for texture is creating these swells that can be really nice for transition moments in songs. You can do this by just upping the volume over time or maybe filtering them up. Now you don't have to just lay the texture on top of your song and have it more at the forefront. You can also be more subtle with it, and something else I did on the track is use some of the radio texture to enhance the character of the drum samples. I ended up putting the radio through a few different effects first just to change up the texture a bit. So I put on a corpus, erosion, Sandman Pro, and then I high-passed it with Pro Q. And at the end of that, I put a gate, and the gate silences everything because it's sidechained to the drums. So there's only gonna be sound from the texture track when there is a significant enough sound from the drum track. So they're just a little plainer, a little duller, and because this radio texture is always shifting a little bit, it's not the exact same sound constantly, it gives a bit more dynamics to the drums. You know, every hit is a little bit different with that top end texture added in. All right, check this out. This is a contact microphone, meaning it doesn't really pick up vibrations through the air, but it will pick up the vibrations coming from whatever it's touching. They're very basic, inexpensive devices. This one's also coated in this non-toxic rubber, which makes it a hydrophone. A hydrophone is a mic that can work underwater. And because these are such basic components and they're all sealed in, this can actually withstand freezing and boiling temperatures. So let's So I recorded while the water froze for about 4 hours, and in this part of the process, there was just the very occasional soft popping sound. Interestingly though, the hum of the fridge that the mic picked up got steadily quieter over time as the water turned from liquid to solid. And now we have this mic encased in a block of ice that I'm gonna use to water a plant while we listen to it thaw. These sounds are nuts. So it looks like what we're hearing is little air bubbles traveling along the surface of the mic. Just moving it because we're starting to get sounds from the wind rubbing the leaves against the cable. This is Andrew from the future. Did you notice that beat that happened when I sped that clip up? Here it is with a little bit of cleanup and processing. Reverb. And I played some chords with it. I love when I find these cool grooves and rhythms in the weirdest places. Anyway, back to yesterday. So I've got a few hours of recording now that I've started to sort through. The sound really built up and was much more constant towards the end. I found that interesting because most of the time it was just silent with just like the occasional little spurt of activity. But anyway, I'm gonna sort through and find the coolest parts and share all of those on my Patreon.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
The rubber coating only goes to about here, and I have my doubts about the cable being able to withstand as much heat, so I'm just gonna try and just dip it in. All right, here we go. I feel like those sounds were not as cool, but at least that didn't take 4 hours. All right, so I'm gonna put the sounds from today on my Patreon if you're interested in having them, and I wanted to let you know that I've been donating a lot of my Patreon and music revenue in the last few months because we're really in a moment, the pandemic needs a lot of work still, huge conversations happening around race and policing. So in the last few months, thanks to your support, we've raised about $10,000 that I've split between a whole lot of different organizations. I think it's clear we're in a historic moment, and I wanna do what I can to keep the momentum going on these issues. I thought it would be worth encouraging you all to give if you can give. Definitely read, talk to people. If you're not in a position where you can give, you can literally just stream my music. My latest album, Ganglia, is all still going to COVID relief, and my latest single, You, is going to causes fighting for racial equality. And then my Patreon, I'm gonna split between those two. And also, if you do any of that in July, I'm gonna be matching. So yeah. Let's do it.